Hi, George Durkee with a revision to the class assignment for Geography 63, creating a basic map. A couple of you have gotten a hold of me, and Jeff reminded me that with the whole COVID lockdown, everybody's in a mild state of chaos. So I want to revise the class for those of you who are struggling, and we're just going to do a very shortened version of the original assignment, getting started with ArcGIS Pro. And what I'm going to do is just show a lot of the basic tools, catalog and how to connect a folder and some other stuff. And we'll just make it much shorter. And I'll do this in a set of 3, maybe 4 videos. And if you complete all these and send me a final map, which I'll of course show you how to do, then that'll count for the class. And if you need to do this class, I do need to hear from you. So just send me an email and tell me that you're on it, and we'll do this in this last week of the class. So for those of you who have already started the Esri Pro class, this will be a little repetitive here. As I said, I'm going to shorten the class. If you decide that you want to continue with the other one, um, we can talk about that too, and shorten some of the lessons. But this will just be the shorter course, and I think a little easier. And I'm going to start from the beginning, even though probably some of you have already done this. So the first thing you want to do is sign in to your ArcGIS Online College account. And just sign in there. And then go to your name in the upper right, click that, go down to Training, and that'll open a new tab. And then go up to Catalog here, and drop down, go over to Course Catalog. And from here, we're going to search for Getting Started with ArcGIS Pro. We're going to use the same data uh, that the main course uses, but as I said, we're just going to go over some of the basics and not the whole course. So scroll down a little bit if you have to, and notice that Getting Started with Pro, 5 hours, so that's the one you want. And incidentally, I'll throw in here that for those of you who have a college account, um, we have as part of our agreement with Esri, we get a lot of free courses from them. So this is pretty useful, and they've got a lot of great courses, and this is how you find them. And I've already recommended some of their MOOCs, massive open online classes, and you get to them from here. And anyway, so you can come back here if you want to keep up with other lessons in ArcGIS. So go ahead and click on Getting Started with ArcGIS Pro. And in my case, I've taken it already, so I'm going to start over. So we go at the beginning, and that's what you should do too. If you're partway into the course, go ahead and start over just to, again, make sure that we're all going to be on the same page here. And I don't want to start where I left off. I'm just going to start completely over. And at the introduction here, and that's where you should be, go ahead and read the objectives, the software, and the data if you haven't already done so. And you can download the data here, but I'm going to show you, we'll do that later. And so go ahead and next, watch the video, and next, and read how the project you create with ArcGIS Pro is then related to all of the maps and data and styles and so on that you'll create as part of that project. And finally, you come to exercise 1, explore the ArcGIS Pro interface and structure. And so we're going to do a modified version of this. it might help you to print this out and save it as a PDF, and then actually print it and have it sitting with you. You can follow it. Although my step-by-step should be good enough. In any event, you go down here to the drop-down, download the data, and now we're actually going to download the data. So go ahead and click on that, and it'll start. Well, actually, it won't start. It's going to show. In my case, I get a choice of where to save the data. Now, you guys, it may, depending on how you've set up your browser, it may automatically download to your downloads folder. It's important to know where it's going to download so that you can get to it later and actually install the data. So I'm going to click Save and start downloading it. And it takes about 2 minutes, so I'm going to pause here and then come back when it's downloaded. Okay, so that took about 2 minutes, and you now have a couple of choices here. You can just click once on prostart.exe, or and this is how you can always find your where it downloaded to. So in Chrome anyway, you have this little down arrow here, and you can just go directly to the folder, and that's what I usually do. So show in folder, and here we are, prostart.exe, and so you double click on that, and they've got this set up such that it creates its own folder to go into, and other training will put it in the same folder. It's going to create a folder called SRE training, and just put it into that. So go ahead, next, agree to it, next. Now, and this is going to put it into SRE training. I already have a folder with that name, so I'm just going to put a 1 there, but you guys just go with the default of SRE training, assuming you haven't already created that. And next, and it doesn't exist, you want it created. So this is a pretty good and pretty smart installation program. So let's go yes and start. There we go. It's pretty quick. So notice over here under my C drive, it's created the folder SRE Training 1, and under that is Pro Start, and under that is the data that we'll be using. So next, we want to start ArcGIS Pro. And if you haven't already installed Pro, then check the assignments page on Canvas, and it'll tell you how to install Pro. And if you have problems installing Pro, you should already have checked your machine to see if it'll run Pro. And I'm going to keep the data down on this so that it doesn't take up too much processor power. A couple of you were having problems with routines going really slowly or crashing the machine. So that's another reason I'm revising this particular part of the class. Now, if you're not already signed in, go up here and it'll say signed in. I've got my account already, so it logs in automatically each time. And once you've done that, and it could be that if you don't use this, or if this is the first time, it'll tell you that you need to update the program. You actually don't have to, but if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. And then it takes a little bit to install a lot of these updates. So either do it or don't. It'll work fine without doing it. And come back and start without a template. And we're going to save what we create here. So what we have here is an untitled map, and the first thing we're going to do is connect to the folder that we just set up, and this is true in both ArcGIS 10 Desktop and Arc Pro, is that you can't get to your data until you actually link it in the catalog here, link it directly to your folders. So let's do that. Right click, add folder connection. So you click right over the folder itself, or if you have a style, you do that. Anyway, we're going to add a folder connection. And we're going to navigate to our C drive. And we are going to, the one I created here is S3 Training 1, and you guys will probably connect it to S3 Training, and go ahead and go OK. And notice that it's created a folder connection here, S3 Training 1, and there's your data. If you have a whole bunch of subfolders that you're going to go back to a lot of times, then go ahead and create a direct connection to that as well. You can have as many as you want here. It just speeds up the process of bringing in data. And for connections that you're going to use a lot, where you don't want to navigate to it each time and create a catalog, because this will disappear. If you open a new project, your folder connections will disappear. So what you can do is you can create some favorites, and you go over to favorites here. So we go up here to add item and add folder. And this will be the same thing. We'll navigate to, or in this case it already shows up. Nope, that's not it. So we go to the C, and we go to S3 Training 1 in my case, or in your case, S3 Training, and just go ahead and OK. And then it adds it to your favorites, and that'll always be there for future projects. So you'll notice, for instance, that I have a folder GIS data, and that's actually where I keep all of my data. Normally I would have put the S3 Training into my larger GIS data, which is actually on a network drive where I keep everything. But however you want, and with luck, you remember what we covered in the first week, which was folder and file naming conventions, and it's really important. I mean, for this class, if this is all you're going to do, then that's fine. But consider how you keep data and where you put it, so you can always find it, and so that it's always together. If stuff starts getting scattered around your computer, you're going to regret it. Maybe not tomorrow, et cetera, but in another year you'll be pretty unhappy because you can't remember where everything is and it's scattered all. So you got to pay attention to how you both organize folders, what you name them, and you know, having everything so you can easily find it again. Okay, so I think I'm going to end this video here. We'll save this before I leave, but notice that you've got all your Northridge data here, and this is what we will be drawing from. Once you create the project, it also creates creates its own file structure, and you've automatically created a database. Well, that comes with it, I'm sorry. But anyway, we'll go over that in the next video. So let's go ahead and save this, and go over here to project, and let's save. And again, this is going to be, we'll go ahead and save it inside of our Northridge. Once again, I'm in the wrong place. So go look for, under your C drive, S3 Training 1, and click to get into that. And so we're going to save this. We're going to call it Northridge Quake, Q-A-K-E, and then underscore, and put your initials here. And ideally, you know, you do things like put a date in to show when you created it. And another thing to consider here, what I was talking about a minute ago, is I'm saving this within our S3 Training folder. But you might want to consider, as you progress in GIS, to have a projects folder, and you save all your projects in that, so that you can find your projects again. If you save them within your data folder and you decide later that like a year later, that you did a project that's pretty useful. Um, your projects are scattered all over the place in their data folders, so you might consider having your projects actually in one place. And if they're properly named, you can go over stuff and you can figure out what you want to use again. And if you haven't moved the data, and this is important, so for instance, if you've changed the name of S3 Training 1 or you've moved it into a different drive or something like that, you can repair that. You'll get a little message that it can't find the data you've created. Um, but then you can actually repair that so it points to the correct data. Uh, but so that's a disadvantage of moving. If you move the whole folder at once, it actually finds it again. I mean, it's all together as a folder. So there's a trade-off there to be considered. Anyway, we've got it in our S3 training thing here, and we're going to save it as Northridge Quake with your initials. And go ahead and save. Okay, so that will be the end of this video, and in the next video we'll actually start pulling in data from the Northridge Quake, creating a feature class so that we can uh, get an idea of how to actually create our own data, and then move on to labeling and editing and other fun stuff.